Welcome back to the United Pubcast. Manchester United 1, Brentford 0. Man United back into the top four after what seems, I wouldn't call it a bit of a mini crisis, but in terms of the reaction around Manchester United at the moment, it was a bit doom and gloom. So very important to get bounce back with all 3 points, and ultimately against, I know it's Brentford in terms of the name, but Brentford are a good team. Obviously got some big results this season, smashed us 4-0 earlier in the season. So all things considered, bouncing back with a 1-0 victory at home, getting back so-called to winning ways and into the top four. Larry, it's 7 o'clock in the morning here on a Thursday. Good way to start the morning.
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. The most pleasing aspect of that performance, it was the most dominant 1-0 win you could ask for. I think Manchester United on another day, and maybe if the confidence is a bit higher, go on to score 2-3 goals. So not perfect performance, but I like that we maintain control. You never felt like the result was really in doubt.
Maybe not in the way sort of the second half unfolded in regards to, okay, 1-0 win, one team going, or 1-0 sort of lead, one team going for it, pushing on a little bit more. So naturally, Manchester United defended a little bit more, but just in the balance of the play, and especially that first half. Look, it wasn't our greatest performance of the season, far from it, but I think Erik ten Hag would probably be very happy with that performance, especially in the first half. Now, yes, in terms of the way we want to view football at Old Trafford, in terms of that excitement and goals, sort of fast-flying football, we probably want a little bit more, of course, especially at home to a team like Brentford. But I think in terms of Erik ten Hag's vision in 3, 4, 5 years' time, what he wants his team to perform like, I think very much in terms of the same prototype of what we saw in that first half. Now, yes, obviously you want to sort of increase the quality and output, of course. But just in regards to that control and the areas we'll get it into, it seemed, what Manchester United Brentford should look like.
Yeah, for sure. And I've got to say, it was the midfield performance. I was quite surprised that he rolled with McTominay and Sabitzer together again. Yeah. I thought, given the performance in the last match against Newcastle, I thought he would have tried to start Fred. And that's what we kind of mentioned on our preview, didn't we? But and credit to both those players. I thought McTominay kept it simple. I think Sabitzer was the more advanced of the two, interestingly enough, today. I thought McTominay was the more tucked-in player.
I think that's always been the case, except for the last game. Except for Newcastle, it's always been that case. So I think it was a return to norm.
But the back four and the Manchester United's vulnerability on the transition was more solid. So that has, and again, some credit to go to McTominay there, because I think obviously we've said Casemiro, the difference in performance when he's in the six compared to others. I think McTominay actually brings that chasm down a little bit.
Defensively, in the second half, he was very good defensively.
Yeah, he was. I thought McTominay played really well. When he keeps his game simple and he just does his job, he can have a really positive influence. And I think the Scotsman absolutely did that today.
Definitely. Well, we'll get into 3-2-1s in a little bit. Very hard because obviously Rashford score a winner. We'll sort of address everyone in the live chat. Good to see you. In terms of Rashford, Chris, good to see you, mate. Marcus Rashford, big goal. Mike, good to see you, mate. Morning, lads. I do agree about the dominance in the first half, but I do think we let them back into the game in the second half, especially after they changed formation. There's no doubt Brentford did get into the game, and whether that was Brentford playing well or Manchester United sitting off, or a little bit of both, I'm not sure. I'm sure there were nerves in regards to Manchester United, in regards to sort of, geez, we can't lose this, in regards to they're obviously looking at the table as much as they say, oh, we're only focused on the game, one game at a time. There's no doubt they're human. They're looking at the table and they think, bloody hell, this is a very important 3 points. So, Brentford did get into the game in the second half. But again, I don't know whether that's a criticism of United or something to praise Brentford with, but it doesn't matter because Man United did get the result done. George, good to see you. Morning all. Rashford the saviour, where these goals are going to come from. If we didn't have Rashford, completely agree. Hopefully, well, not hopefully, the answer is probably £100 million in the transfer market somewhere else. That is a discussion for another day. Shane, good mate of ours, our Newcastle fan. Big win for Newcastle. I was thinking maybe after the high they had during the week, on the weekend, maybe that sort of come crashing back down to earth. But they kicked on absolutely smashing West Ham. And West Ham, I don't know where they sit on the table, but that's a big defeat for them. So maybe they can start blowing their bubbles in the championship. And Adam, good to see you, mate. Brilliant result. Brentford had only lost one game in the last 16. Yeah, but Brentford, you have to take away the name Brentford. In terms of the way we view Manchester United, Brentford, I go 3-0. Well, no, Brentford are a very good team in terms of they played very well at the Etihad earlier in the season. I think they got a 2-0 win there. And look, they beat us 4-0 for God's sake. So a very good team. And Rob, good to see you, mate. As always, such an important result. Let's go on another run and secure top four. That's what's needed now. Okay, we've got Everton on the weekend. You can't go beat Brentford and then drop points to Everton. Very important week for Manchester United. And ultimately, Larry, before the match, we were confident. And does this sort of give you sort of confidence amongst the players in regards to last season, if we lost away at Newcastle, we'd think, oh God, the next game we're going to drop points. These players aren't up for it. But suddenly it was full time against Newcastle. We lost 2-0, huge disappointment. But our first reaction or our initial sort of gut feeling is, well, I backed this team to bounce back against Brentford. And ultimately they did. So is that something just sort of standard as a Manchester United fan you should expect, or is it something worth sort of praising the players for?
Look, you can't go into any game thinking that you have the right to win. Obviously, we've seen that time and time again. Brentford at the start of the season, Tom, I think any of us would have said, oh, it's all right, we'll go to Brentford and we'll smack them. They smacked us. That you can't expect that. Ultimately, and again, because the confidence, this game was so big, and I made a point of saying it was must win. And the reason I felt it was must win was because if Manchester United lost this game, what it does for the confidence and the psychological nature of the players heading into the back end of the season. That's why it was massive. So I think there was a lot of what the biggest, most pleasing aspect, and let's give some credit to Erik ten Hag here, because if this was under Ralph Rangnick or Solskjaer, I think this group of players would have capitulated today. I think they would have lost that game. And that's been the improvement between last season and this season. We've seen this group of players time and time again this season with the ability to bounce back after a poor result. And we've continued in that vein of form. We saw it when we lost, obviously, the comprehensive hammering at the hands of Liverpool. We bounced back against Real Betis, and we've seen it again today, which is really pleasing to see.
Psychologically, you say there, is it now ultimately, yes, you would like to go and win 4-0, 5-0, 6-0. You want to score as many goals and play as good a football as you can. But psychologically, just in the way you look at tables, the way you look at the score sheet, would Erik ten Hag potentially be looking at a 1-0 win as kind of more pleasing in regards to, okay, dominant performance, go get your goal. Then ultimately that resilience and sort of discipline to keep a clean sheet is almost more important than going sort of playing great football and winning 4-0?
Yeah, absolutely. I think keeping a clean sheet is the most pleasing aspect of this performance. You and I, when we did our preview, said keeping a clean sheet, we don't really anticipate that, just given the frailties we saw against Newcastle. So to keep a clean sheet is the most pleasing aspect. I think if you can not concede goals, or if you manage to not concede goals, you put less pressure on your attackers. When I remember Sir Alex Ferguson's last season in charge, Tom, and it was a weird title-winning season for the first quarter or the first third of that season. If you can recall, Manchester United came from behind and it was some sort of record in terms of a title-winning side, and we managed to do it.
We did nothing but win games 4-3, 3-2, 5-4. Yeah. It was a crazy season.
It was a crazy season, but the reality is, particularly now, because I think a lot of managers there's such an onus on tactical setup and transitions and so forth. And I think if you put that sort of pressure on your team, you're really not setting yourself up for success. And again, if you look at Manchester United's goal difference, we're not a highest goal scoring side in terms of the Premier League, at least in comparison with others in the top four race. So I think if you're Erik ten Hag, you absolutely want to build from the back.
Well, building from the back, that is my next point. So in the comments, get all your thoughts in regards to individuals. Any topics you do want us to discuss, let us know, and we'll get cracking on those. And if you are tuned in, please do leave a like on the video. You're holding your phone as we speak. Just click like, very, very quick and very free. And very much appreciated. But building from the back, Larry, clean sheet for David De Gea. Now, I'm not going to go in on David Raya because I think he was fine. It had absolutely nothing to do with the goal. Well, fine performance by the Brentford goalkeeper. But if you listen to Twitter, and I don't disagree, but if you do listen to Twitter, he's the answer. He's going to take Manchester United to the Premier League over David De Gea. Playing out from the back, David Raya is obviously better than David De Gea, of course. My God, some of the passes David Raya was doing, if that was David De Gea, there'd be a far different discussion. Now, I'm not saying David De Gea was brilliant in playing out from the back, but my God, David Raya was fine, absolutely fine. But 2 or 3 misplaced passes, you could imagine the reaction if it was David De Gea. So ultimately, in regards to a goalkeeping audition, I wouldn't. Neither of them had a bad game or a good game. Neither had sort of much to do. But ultimately, in terms of an audition, De Gea didn't sort of hurt himself up against a potential direct rival.
Yeah, I think the same way we look at our own players and say you can't judge a player off one performance, I think the same principle has to apply when you're thinking of transfer targets. Players shouldn't be expected to come to Old Trafford and influence. And particularly when you're a goalkeeper. I mean, goalkeeper, you're literally a moment's position. And you're going to make a critical save or you'll make a brilliant pass. Anything outside of that, it's just doing the status quo. So, I know you're not saying that, but I think we just need to be careful as a fan base of judging players too quickly based on, they didn't influence the game at Old Trafford. Well, It's difficult to influence a game at Old Trafford, and as it should be. So I'm not going to judge David Raya. And if I've got to be honest, Tom, if that is a target that Eric Ten Hag wants to bring in the summer, I'm all for it, because I've seen enough of David Raya. He would allow, and again, you look at the players in front of him. He'd have the likes of Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane, and it evolves your own performance. You pay with.
For me, it's not a criticism of Ray. If Eric Ten Hag thinks he's the man, I welcome him with open arms to Manchester United. But I just think, in regards to the criticism David De Gea's got, I think he did okay today. And again, not hugely tested, but it's not David De Gea's game. So for him to adapt, we always ask these players to do their best and sort of want the best. And David De Gea could easily sit there and say, "No, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to launch it." We sat here saying we're going to launch it long. They didn't. Obviously, at times we did. But David De Gea is trying to adapt his game to sort of save his Man United career, because he wants to stay. And ultimately, we want players who want to be here. So I just think David De Gea, after this performance, not in regards to 3-2-1s or anything, but just deserves maybe a little bit of credit, because I think a lot of people, unfortunately Manchester United fans included, crazily, wanted him to fail today, so they could see, okay, Brentford won with David Raya, we lost with David De Gea. I think that was sort of in everyone's sort of drafted tweets on before the game, ready to post it full time. So I hope they can go, unfortunately, delete all those. But one or two more comments before we do crack on. Just all back to front, we'll go through individual performances, then the game, and then obviously wrap up with the 3-2-1s. But SJ here, I thought Anthony had a huge first half. Everything good went through him, including the goal. He even crossed on his right foot. If only he hit the target with one of his many shots. Yeah, cut in a few times. Yeah, one of them, I think ultimately that is Anthony. Those 2 or 3 shots are sort of going to go wide today. The other ones that we sort of remember go into the top corner, that is the price you pay. He's going to have those moments of frustration, or maybe could do a little bit better, but ultimately he will do better in a week or two's time. That's what we will get with Anthony. But yeah, the last 2 games, I think Anthony has been a bright spark. I think he's sort of potentially not added, I'd say adding to his game a little bit. So keep that going. Anthony's doing really well. And Rob's saying, I really like Anthony, just wish he'd cross the ball a little bit more as a winger. Yeah. I completely agree in terms of, is that his game? Probably not, but it is obviously something he does need to add to his repertoire. But Larry, anything else in regards to sort of individuals before 3-2-1s, but any individuals you do want to highlight? Obviously, Marcus Rashford got the start through the middle over Anthony Martial. Again, maybe that's just down, I assume it has to be down to a fitness thing in regards to sort of monitoring the comeback. But dropped Weghorst, played Rashford through the middle and Jadon Sancho out on the left. There was the bit of a surprise in midfield, as we said, in terms of Fred didn't get the start over McTominay. And at the back, I said, I think Rob put in the chat as well, I forget who put in regards to Luke Shaw, Mike here saying, hope Luke Shaw isn't injured too much. Look, definitely sort of precautionary. But going through back to front individually, talk to me about any players that spring to mind.
I liked Anthony's performance, Tom. I think, again, with wide players, you have to allow for the occasional error, and you have to allow for a degree of frustration, because the thing is, when you're taking on a player one-on-one, it's going one way or the other. You're either getting past him or they're getting the ball. Simple as that, yeah? And the thing is, if I look at Anthony's performance today, and the pleasing aspect of his performance today was when he went one-on-one and he lost the ball. But what I liked about it, he dribbled direct. He didn't look to cut back in off the left. He didn't slow it down. He went direct, and then he got double teamed and he lost the ball. That's fair enough. But I like that there was a precision and an intensity about what he was trying to achieve. The other pleasing aspect was he crossed with his right foot. He crossed with his right foot today. Lo and behold, he found a way to use it. And again, it wasn't the world's best cross, but it led to a chance. And it was McTominay's shot, which easily could have ended up in a goal. But it just shows that if Anthony starts to mix up his game a little bit, so that, hold on, he's not always just going to chop off the inside his left foot. That's all he needs to do. You add that touch of variety, you're brilliant on your left foot. You create that bit of doubt with a defender, he's going to create much more opportunity for himself and for his teammates. So really pleased with his performance. Not brilliant, of course, but I thought it was, I'm seeing some really positive signs. I think he's starting to finally grow into the player he needs to be.
It's comment here, Chris. I forget there was a decision which went well in our favour. One of the Brentford players got a yellow card for a great tackle. Not even a great tackle, just kicking the ball against Bruno Fernandes. And Bruno Fernandes went down and, Brentford got a yellow. So the ref was dead set against United. I thought the yellow for sure was bullshit. I forget the yellow on Luke Shaw. I remember he did get booked. I forget if it was a bad decision or not. I didn't really think of the referee in that game, so maybe that was a sign, in my opinion, of a good performance by the referee, but thank God didn't cost us the game or anything. Just in regards to the balance of play, Rob brings up here Sabitzer. Obviously got the assist from memory. I think he got in the knockdown. I don't think the defender knocked it down. I think it was Sabitzer. Correct me if I'm wrong, but thought it was very good today. Just in regards to that midfield combination, because I think we said whatever the combination is, it's probably not going to be McTominay and Sabitzer, because the last 2 times it probably hasn't worked. So he's going to change that up. But Erik ten Hag did stick with it. And sort of our perception of the game, and I think correctly so, was that we controlled the game. It was a good performance. Now, ultimately, you're not going to have a good control in performance if your 2 midfielders aren't playing well. So ultimately, in regards to Sabitzer and McTominay and just the combination, now, obviously, we're not going to compare it to Eriksen and Casemiro, etc. And obviously, it's not the future. But just their sort of performances collectively in regards to the balance of that midfield, because so many people and big accounts on here will say, and Erik ten Hag, and rightfully so to a degree, that midfield is where you win and lose the game. Well, today we won the game, and 2 of those midfielders were McTominay and Sabitzer. So just collectively in regards to midfield, how that combination worked.
I liked it, and I think again, credit to Erik ten Hag, because I think most people would have said we need to rotate this midfield, we need to put Fred in, and it's difficult because let's not forget I would like to challenge anyone, even Manchester City, take their 2 best central midfielders out of their team and see how they perform. Take Kevin De Bruyne and Rodri out of Manchester City. I guarantee the level of performance won't be the same. And that's the thing. I think if you take Casemiro and Eriksen, who are our first choice midfielders, they're not available. And I don't think enough credit to Ten Hag, because he doesn't complain, but I think he's done really well to get a tune out of the players available to him. And I think we'll be in good stead for when those 2 players are back. And if we are following the news, it looks like Casemiro and Eriksen may both be available as early as next week to play together. So that's Rob
brings up the point here. We'd really love to see Eriksen in the squad for the weekend. It does look, again, he'd be definitely on the bench in regards to before he plays. But yeah, you'd love to see it. Obviously back in training. I'm not sure if training photos have come out, but obviously we have reports that he's at training. But it'd be great to see Eriksen, not just for the quality he brings, but just the option, just an extra body. Okay, 70 minutes, and someone needs a rest. Okay, you bring on another player for 20 minutes. At the moment, we don't really have that. There's only sort of 1 central midfielder on the bench at a time. Where if Casemiro and Eriksen return, or suddenly you have Fred and McTominay and Sabitzer on the bench, you have 3 options to come on and change things. So regardless of the quality, just the sheer numbers is why it's so important for these players to come back. But before 3-2-1s, Larry, any sort of talking points of the actual match in regards to any incidents? It was quite as I said, we're quite happy with it, or very, very happy with it. But ultimately, it's not a match we'll be sort of writing home about it at the end of the season. It will be quickly forgotten about, quite sort of run-of-the-mill. But any talking points or the refereeing decisions or sort of moments?
Moments. Nothing of note, to be honest. I know people have said the referee's performance was poor. When I look at a referee's performance, Tom, unless it's clearly and obviously impacting the result, I don't really take too much notice. I think the standard of refereeing is quite poor in the Premier League in general, but it really wouldn't be fair to kind of highlight that. In terms of individuals and moments, key moments in the match, I really didn't see any. I would have liked McTominay to have scored that goal because I thought it would have been awesome for him, but nonetheless, I don't recall any key moments of note. How about yourself?
There's a key moment, not a key moment, just as a fan, you're watching it. I like that. There was a big tackle by Lisandro Martinez on Ivan Toney up in the offensive third, up right on the sideline, just went straight through him. And it was just, I like that. Like, it was a foul. It was actually, if it went to VAR for yellow cards, I think he would have got a yellow card. Toney didn't react too kindly to it. It was a naughty challenge by Lisandro Martinez, but when we do it, I absolutely love that. And I think that was a big moment in regards to, okay, you're not getting past me today. And although Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane were heavily tested today, I thought Brentford had 1 or 2 bright moments and got the better of Martinez and Varane at times. But ultimately, I think their reaction and their sort of ability to get back and save the situation was a credit to them. So we'll get into 3-2-1s. So get your comments in regard. The hard one, this one with 3-2-1. So get all your thoughts in. Rob going early with Sabitzer for 3 points, Rashford for 2, and Scott McTominay for 1. I think Scott McTominay's in with a shout for 1 point at the end in terms of his contribution defensively. So I'll get onto that. But in regards to 3 points, so obviously match winner by Marcus Rashford. Sabitzer, I don't know, maybe if I go back and watch the match, and tactically maybe Sabitzer has had a huge influence. I wouldn't disagree with Rob, but not someone who stood out for me. Maybe he did, though. I'll have to listen to Erik ten Hag's comments. Rashford, obviously, with a match winner. as I said, I thought sometimes they got the better of Lisandro Martinez, but I just thought in certain moments and sort of when he was sort of engaged in sort of tackling and that, I thought Lisandro Martinez was very good. 3 points is a tough one, Larry.
3 points is a tough one. Who was our best
I thought
player?
Diego Dalot in the first half, I thought was involved in making things happen, maybe not having the quality, but I thought he looked quite bright.
Rashford scores, and I think at the end of the day, it's a 1-0 win. I would go Rashford. I didn't think his overall performance was brilliant, but he looked dangerous, particularly in that first half in the wide areas. Rashford's the difference. If Rashford doesn't play, do we win the game?
Yeah, that's a definite shout, and it's very sort of easy and lazy of us at times to say that. So when David De Gea saves a shot, or if De Gea wasn't there, what would have happened? Well, another goalkeeper would have been there. Maybe he would have made the save. If Rashford wasn't there, well, someone else would have been playing on that up front. Someone else might have scored the goal. It's very easy for us to say, but ultimately, it's very sort of accurate, I think, in terms of just the feeling around if that was Weghorst, not Rashford playing, do we get that? Maybe win 3-0, maybe the play links up differently and we create different chances. But really, without Rashford there through the middle. And
you know who deserves 2 points? Lisandro Martinez. I thought he was really good.
That's what I was saying. I thought once or twice in regards to maybe standout moments they got past him, or maybe Ivan Toney sort of, wouldn't say bullied him, but just physically got the better of him at times. But in terms of the overall sort of, let's say, recovering from sort of tough situations, I thought Lisandro Martinez was very good. And ultimately, as I said, that tackle late in the game in terms of putting one through him, it had no impact on the result. But just as Manchester United fans, you want to see, okay, it was a nothing incident in regards to he could go back and jog into position and shape up and get a breather, or he could go through the opponent's striker and sort of leave his mark on him. And really, does that have an impact on the match? No. But as a fan, that's exactly what you want to see. You want to see players literally fighting for the badge.
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, it wasn't a faultless performance, but I don't think any player was faultless. Well, Sabitzer was good too. Like, that's the thing. I thought Sabitzer deserves a shout. He looked good. Sabitzer, McTominay, I think, are definitely a shout. McTominay, I think, absolutely deserves points. But I
think his contribution at the end in regards to potentially, okay, 1-0, we're sitting off a little bit, 1 or 2 big blocks. Now, if those blocks, sometimes maybe the shot wasn't going to go in, but ultimately he had to do that job in front. So I would be looking for McTominay for a point, just to sort of get some type of positivity around him. My God, he needs it at the moment. But in regards to, okay, Rashford 3 points, McTominay 1, so that leaves it up for discussion in regards to Sabitzer and Lisandro Martinez. I would personally, for me to give Sabitzer points, I'll probably have to go back and watch the match. Now, I'm sure he has had a very positive. He's not got the assist, though. Big impact in regards to that. So ultimately, maybe the midfield combination is worthy of points, but just the eye test for me, I did like what I see from Lisandro Martinez. But Rob has gone 3 for Sabitzer. You've mentioned he had a good performance, and ultimately we have mentioned the importance of Rashford's goal. It doesn't happen without Sabitzer's knockdown.
Yeah, 100%. Look, I would, in terms of the context of the game, I think Rashford, because obviously he scores the goal, he's the point of difference, Tom. And then obviously when you're talking 2 and 1 point, I'd be going between Martinez and McTominay. I think it's interesting. I wonder, is it in terms of the eye test that when we're giving defenders points, we tend to lead towards Lisandro Martinez, but he's always partnered with Rafael Varane, and I just wonder, are we being a bit unfair to the Frenchman? Is Varane the calming influence that maybe Rio Ferdinand was, and Martinez?
It's Rio Ferdinand, Vidic. Who has the better? If you had to sit down and watch a 5-minute highlight package, who would you rather watch, Vidic or Ferdinand? Vidic. There's tackles, there's blood flying, there's elbows. He's more engaging. It's more exciting to watch. Rio Ferdinand, in my opinion, was a little bit better. Now, 2 different things. Varane, I think, is a better defender than Lisandro Martinez. Who do you enjoy watching more in terms of the spectacle and the excitement? It's Lisandro Martinez. His arm is all action.
Well, that's the thing. I think looking at it, and in terms of stats, Martinez is in there, but I suppose he's the more progressive defender. He's the one who comes forward while Varane tucks. And I wonder, actually, Varane didn't get outdone by Toney, but Martinez did. So I wonder, is there a case where actually we should be giving points to the Frenchman? Because he didn't put a foot wrong, whereas Lisandro Martinez is in the heart of the action, but he also did get bullied a couple times. So I think that's worth a consideration at the very least.
Look, it's valid. I think in regards to sort of that sort of influence and analysis of the game, you probably have to go back and sort of give it a detailed watch and sort of knowing the result and sort of having a sort of different sort of set of eyes on it in regards to the emotion. Obviously, what are we, 20 minutes after full time? it's hard to sort of add that detailed analysis. So in regards to if we can't split Martinez and Varane, because you do make a good point there, in regards to off the back, and again, we have to isolate the performance, of course, in regards to if it's good enough or not good enough. But in regards to off the back of Newcastle, in regards to McTominay and Sabitzer not quite working, I thought both, had a good game. Sabitzer obviously had a big influence on the match with the assist, but ultimately a solid performance as well. And I think defensively, before the ball got to Martinez and Varane, a lot of the times it was the Scotsman putting his body on the line in that second half. So me personally, I would be going Rashford 3, and off the back of just that chat, Sabitzer for 2. And I'll be trying Scott to just get some type of positivity. And I think deservedly so in regards to this isolated performance. In regards to the clean sheet, I thought did well. So would you disagree with Rashford, Sabitzer, McTominay?
I wouldn't disagree with that. And yeah, Sabitzer definitely is worth a shout because he had a really positive contribution in the final third. He's a footballer. When he gets forward, he looks good. I think, and I wonder if there's something in Fred not playing as regularly now. Has Ten Hag perhaps made a decision? Is something happening in the background with looking to make Sabitzer's move permanent and perhaps Fred gets moved on? Because Fred's got 1 year left on his contract and there's no talks of any renewal or contract negotiations. And I think if you look at the player, they're like for like. I think Sabitzer's just a really obvious upgrade.
Yeah, well, look, we're going to be having many of these discussions in regards to transfers. I've always made it clear for about the last year, and especially it's going to heat up in the coming weeks in regards to McTominay and Fred, which one's likely to go. I've always stand firm in terms of Manchester United looking at the situation and Erik Ten Hag. If I want to put money on it, I think they'll actually sort of opt to move Fred on over McTominay. I think the benefits and sort of will outweigh each other there in
and
the
home
Scotsman's
quota,
favour.
I think that's something.
Yeah, that's the thing. Wages, value, age, everything. Brexit, how that's going to influence things. I think it's huge sort of ramifications there and huge sort of factors that will play a part. So there's the 3-2-1s. Appreciate all that. SJ, look, I don't disagree here, not in regards to points, but lastly, worth a mention, very hard as a substitute to come on in the first half. That's what I'd give him credit for. Very hard. Well, when you're not expecting to come on, suddenly 2 minutes later, your bibs off, your shirt's on, you're on the pitch and have to get up to speed. It's very difficult. I don't think a lot of people sort of, unless you've been in that position, unfortunately, if you have been on the bench and had to come on, it's very, very difficult.
I think on the ball, and that's not, again, this isn't a criticism, but at the moment, because Sabitzer's a young, Malacia's a young player, but at the moment, I think there's a clear drop-off between Shaw and Malacia, at least with the ball. I think Shaw, I still think it's an underrated element of his game. I think Shaw technically is a really good player. And I don't think he gets enough credit. Like if you look at the way Trent Alexander-Arnold crosses a ball from deep, like I understand it's aesthetically good to look at, but Luke Shaw, when he crosses, he's putting a ball right on the head. He's not crossing into an area. He's crossing for a body. And I think that, it can't be understated how accurate he is with his delivery. So, I think Shaw's a hell of a player. And look, Malacia did well under the circumstances, but I still think there's a bit of a drop-off. And I think that was quite visible in terms of United progressing the ball.
Well, it'll be interesting. Maybe Malacia is forced to play this week because obviously Luke Shaw did come off with a little bit of an injury. I'm sure a lot of the quotes from Erik Ten Hag are floating around it as we speak. I haven't seen any. I'm sure he's doing his interviews now. But just you're guessing if a player has gone off injured in the first half, he won't be available in 2 days' time. And that will force Terrell Malacia into the starting 11 against Everton, which is a huge game now, Larry, because ultimately here we are, good positivity. Manchester United beat Brentford. We're back into the top 4. It will mean nothing if we drop points, not even lose. Just if we drop points. If we get a draw against Everton, it'll be all for nothing. So your thoughts leading into the weekend?
Don't know. Everton, big game. And so soon, too. There's no time. Like, as a fan...
This game was so soon after Newcastle.
Yeah, it's criminal, to be honest. I think to ask players to back up that quickly is ridiculous. But as a fan, hey, I love it. I'm not complaining. Don't know. Does Martial finally start? I guess that's my question. Is being drip-fed into the team. Someone mentioned it in the comments yesterday. I can't remember who it was, but it was a good shout because Martial didn't start, did he? And he came on in the 70th minute. So Ten Hag's taking his time with him.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Look, rewind the discussion from last night, 2 days ago, 3 days ago, in regards to should Martial start over Weghorst, will he start fitness-wise? Now we've had 2 games, he's come off the bench. In regards to Everton at home, maybe if it was Everton away, it would change things. But Everton at home, I think, and from memory, Anthony Martial has quite a good record against Everton. I think you start Anthony Martial, and I thought Jadon Sancho was fine today. I thought sort of a solid 6 out of 10, nothing wrong, nothing sort of bad about his performance, but nothing sort of to write home about. So I think Marcus Rashford shifts back to the left-hand side and Anthony Martial through the middle. And Anthony is obviously in very good form. So in my opinion, the team pretty much picks itself. I think McTominay needs a bit to keep their spot. Maybe that's harsh on Fred potentially. But I think in regards to a clean sheet at home, you keep that. Bruno Fernandes, obviously the robot he is going to play. Obviously the issue at left back will be down to fitness. But I think the front three, surely now, and not to be critical of Eric Ten Hag's decision today, it worked, and obviously maybe it's going to work in the long run in regards to easing Anthony Martial back in. But this week at home to Everton, surely it's the Martial through the middle and Rashford back to the left.
Martial's got a good record against Everton, and in terms of goal scoring, like he's got it, and he's always performed well. Even in the last performance, I think he came off in the 22nd minute, not before he gave Anthony a nice assist. I would like to see Martial start. I think United need to start playing better football earlier, and I think we need to start scoring goals early. And Everton are still desperate. I think they've had some level of positive improvement under Sean Dyche, but overall, like they're still vulnerable in terms of the Premier League table. They're not out of the relegation scrap. So
just looking at the table now, they're in 16th, but they're tied with 18th. So they're in and around.
Right.
Well, even West Ham are in 15th. They're in the relegation zone technically. They're tied with 18th and they're 15th. They just got smacked. So the relegation battle, I love a relegation battle. Like, yes, in terms of slice
between Palace in 12th and 20th is not big at all.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, and there's even a shout. Look, Southampton get 2 wins, which obviously they're not going to get 2 wins. But Southampton get 2 wins in the next 2 weeks. Suddenly they're going to shoot up the table, which won't happen. But it is crazy watching that end of the table. Who do you want to see go down in regards to the cynic and the football fan in you? Who do you want to see go down?
Nottingham Forest, because they spent money stupidly.
After what Forest did in the transfer window, I think they deserve to go down.
Yeah, I agree. Leicester, I feel a bit sad for, if I'm being honest. I just think there's been mismanagement of players. I think they rested on their laurels a little bit. They obviously had the massive upset of the century when they won the Premier League, and they were competing in European positions for a good while there, weren't they, Tom? But just over the last few years,
I thought they dealt with winning the league quite well in regards. They didn't go too far. They didn't go sign all these world-class players. They obviously naturally had to let 1 or 2 players go, but I thought they handled that transition quite well. Ultimately, it hasn't resulted. It hasn't resulted the way it wanted. So maybe I was wrong in regards to my perception of how they did treat that.
They made a lot of signings that didn't work out, and then they found themselves in a financial predicament, and that's why they haven't been able to invest into the squad. And they've now sacked their manager, who hasn't been able to get a tune out of
sacking their manager. Larry, have you turned on Twitter? Do you know what's happening?
Yeah, Frank Lampard.
I can't believe it.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
it's like I don't know what to make of it. And look, I'm not saying
example of my ex is no good for me, but I'm taking it back anyway.
I don't know what to say. Could you put it in the same category as if, let's say, Eric Ten Hag was found? Thank God he's not bringing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer back for interim period. In regards to the interim period was quite good. Like, is that kind of
interesting? I mean, as an interim, I kind of get it.
That's what I mean. It might be. It makes no sense, but I think, well, if it's simply the interim, which I think it will be, obviously. It still makes no sense, but I can kind of, you can see where it turns around, maybe.
PR is a hell of a thing. And if you're a Chelsea owner right now, you sacked Tuchel, you backed Potter, it didn't work out. You've now sacked Potter. How do you get the fans back on side? Bring back a club legend.
You bring back club legend, but not the one that you sacked, not he sacked personally, but not the one that was sacked last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was.
That's the PR spin. It's interim. He is a club legend. He understands the club. He'll bring the feel-good factor back, all that nonsense. But
will he bring the feel-good factor back? I know he's a club legend, of course he is. Like Solskjaer remains a huge legend. But in terms of, will he? Like, he'll need results to bring that back.
Well, I mean, you can feel good and lose, I suppose.
Well, fingers crossed we're not in that position. But we have Sean Dyche and Everton on Saturday night here in Sydney. So as I said, if you are in Sydney, Scruffy Murphy's on Saturday night. Take advantage of a 9:30 p.m. kickoff. That is the best time we do get on the other side of the world. So definitely be taking advantage of that one. Come have a beer with us. And Larry, obviously, I don't know, Friday Night Pump, we'll do a preview, etc. and everything. Just a good way to start our Thursday. Good way to start. 3 points, clean sheet. And more importantly, potentially, back into those European places or the Champions League places.
Yeah, absolutely. Tottenham couldn't take full advantage. Manchester United back where they belong. I'm looking forward to the Friday night plant, Tom. I want to talk all sorts of nonsense. I want to talk about football. I want to talk about Endeavour, and I know you know what I'm talking about there. WWE and UFC under the same umbrella. That's why I like the Friday night pint. You get to talk about football, and yet you can talk about anything else. So if you want to join us for a little bit of madness, join us tomorrow night. Grab a drink, get it in your hands, and get involved because you will not be able to predict what might come up as a topic of discussion.
UFC, there is a huge UFC. For any MMA or UFC fans, there is a huge card on Sunday. I can't wait. I'm already booking my spot at the pub for that on Sunday lunchtime. But until then, enjoy the 3 points, everyone. If you are happy with that, please do leave a like on the video. Very much appreciated. If you are new, hit subscribe and hit that notification bell so you do join us next time we do go live and you can get all your thoughts in, because we do always appreciate everyone's interaction. I'm going to have a bit of a scroll through Twitter and just enjoy and bask in some positivity. I'm sure there'll be negativity around De Gea and McTominay because that's what Twitter is at the moment. But I want to try and find the positive glimpses in it and enjoy my day. So until then, have a good one, Larry. Have a good one, everyone in the chat. We'll chat to you soon.
Cheers.